This is festivalPass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next. All right, friends, this is the festivalPass Stories podcast. We are, of course, presented by Dos Hombres, the artisanal mezcal meant to be shared, created by Aaron Paul and Brian Cranston. Have a drink with us. Well, not really on us, because we want you to, of course, buy it, but have a drink with us at doshombres.com/delivery. And no joke, on the walk over to my studio today, I saw Brian Cranston over on Central Park West. He must be in town filming a movie or promoting Dos Hombres, who knows? Also, friends, ever wanted to have that opportunity to invest in a product early? That could be the next Airbnb? Tell me more. Now, learn why entrepreneurs and celebrities with exits approaching $10 billion have already invested in festivalPass. Go to invest.festivalpass.com to learn more. Now, friends, festival lovers, we're in for a treat today because my guest is no stranger to rock and roll and blues. In fact, he can claim that he was born with his feet 10 feet off a Beale. Yes, the Memphis man himself. He is the founder of the Lost Art Music Festival coming to you this June. Welcome, the great, and it says here in the contract, I have to say, the great Jim Ethridge. Jim, what's happening?
Hey there, how are you?
I'm doing well. Look, I guess I should start off by saying, I'm a big fan of your sister, Melissa. I'm sure you hear that all the time, and you're like, no. But if you could get her on the program, we would appreciate it.
I'll see what I can do.
No relation, right?
No, she actually spells it. She throws a third E there, and I've got two E's in mine. But yeah.
You've an E minor and an E major. If a major is actually a musical note, but that shows how musically inclined I am. But look, this festival that you have coming up right outside of Atlanta in June, this was years in the planning. So I want to, do the, like the Wayne's World dream scene here. And let's take us back and I want to see, because the love of music with you, obviously, as I said, born in Memphis, in Music City. But it starts really at the University of Georgia. And I guess my first question on that is, why not the University of Tennessee? What went wrong?
I am actually the only person in my immediate family that did not spend some time at the University of Tennessee, as a matter of fact. But I've always loved I loved the idea of Athens. When I was a kid growing up, my favorite band when I was maybe 10, 11 years old was REM.
Yes.
And when they would do interviews, I remember reading a Rolling Stone interview with them, and they talked about Athens, and it was to my music inclined brain, it was this magical wonderland of creativity and good music. And I think that always stuck in the back of my head. And I love the University of Georgia. Go Dogs.
Yeah, go Dogs. National champion Dogs, folks. So we're kind of putting a timestamp on this, that this is 2022 while we're recording this. So years from now, when they find this one in the vault, they'll be like, when did Georgia win? Oh, 2022. Okay, I know this one. Now, I am an REM fan myself, and my sisters were very influential in my music, and REM would be part of it. And you mentioned Rolling Stone. My God, like, if there were two magazines I couldn't wait to read, and I mean, kids, I'm talking about hard copy magazines that you'd wait for them to come in the mailbox. This was Sports Illustrated wouldn't have been number one. So speaking of the Dogs, but Rolling Stone. I mean, when that magazine, an oversized, just Bible of the music business, when that would come out, and that's where you'd find out about the new albums. Of course, MTV and so on were coming out when we were growing up. But I mean, just there was nothing like digging into that Rolling Stone, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I still have stacks and stacks and stacks of them stored away. But yeah, I think that was something special, was to be able to open up something like that and really find out, the new music that you might be interested in. And I miss that. I miss that in some ways.
Yeah, it's not the same on the tablet and everything else. But did you have that same? Do you have older sisters and brothers? Did you have that influence coming in, or where are you in the sibling line in your family?
In the sibling line, I have a sister from Lisa. I got a love of Bob Seger. She was a big
Hollywood Nights.
Yeah, man, he put on a great show. I saw him close out the Pyramid. He was the final show at the Pyramid years ago, and man, he puts on a great show. But my family wasn't in the music business. My dad, he only listened to talk radio, and growing up with my mom, it was Julio Iglesias and Barbara Streisand. So I went
sometimes
more down
together on the same track.
Path. Say that again.
Sometimes together on the same track, Julio and Barbara Streisand. I'm sure they did a duet or two along the way.
I'm sure they must have. Yeah.
But it didn't come from your family; it came from within. And you get to the University of Georgia, and you start hosting a radio show. Was that something where they were like looking for volunteers, or is this a really competitive thing at the school to try to get those gigs?
It was something I always wanted to do. Even growing up in high school, what I really loved doing was discovering new music, and then turning on my friends to that new music. Back then, it was we did it via mixtapes, but I really liked trying to find that new thing and connecting it with the people who I thought would enjoy that same kind of music. So, that was special to me. And then once you have an opportunity to be on the radio, the great thing about it is it was very similar to what I would do at my house. I've got 800 LPs at home, and I could bring records down there. It was CDs, and you could do digital then, but I preferred bringing those records down, and I could just kind of talk to the walls, but then it was broadcast 50 miles around. It's great. So
you were able to kind of have your own format. You didn't have to do top 40 or anything. They were like, Jim, this is your canvas, paint it.
So that show was it was called Set Break, and it was a jam band focused show.
Oh.
So back then I still love the Grateful Dead, still love that genre. I love the spontaneity, the changing up the set list. I love the improvisation with it. Although I've in the past 15 years plus, I've gone more the Americana path with what I really enjoy and what our festival's about.
Yeah, as soon as you said jam band, I was thinking of like people going to a Dead show and like writing down the set list and coming back and be like, and then they jumped into a Help, Slip, Frank, which of course would mean I believe it's if I'm right, Help is on the way. Something Slip. I don't know.
Slipknot and Franklin's Tower.
Slipknot, okay. And then Franklin's Tower, of course. Yeah. And I mean, you could put Franklin's Tower on and like get on the train in Boston and end up in Miami. And it's like, they're still like at the bridge, like, and you're like, and the trip goes by so fast. And if you are on a trip during that trip, it's really going to go by fast.
Well, yeah.
What a long, strange trip it may have been. So sorry, no more dead puns.
But you must be a fan too, if Help Slip, Franklin's Tower. That's
I was lucky enough to go. I wasn't like a Deadhead or anything like that, but I enjoyed the music, and then I lived with a couple guys that really followed them, and I did get to see Jerry with the band at the old Giant Stadium before he died, which was that's definitely on that list of check it off. Like, you got to see Jerry with the Dead. They've got all sorts of iterations of the band now, right? You've got right? Bob Weir does his own thing. Then you've got, a couple of the other guys. They've brought people together. And I think they brought in Bruce Hornsby over the years, and all these other, which is great. I always loved his version of Jack Straw on that Dedicated album that they did.
Sure.
Which was, all the covers. I always thought that, like, if one song stood out, I was like, God, that is such a Hornsby sounding song.
Yeah, the great thing about that band was obviously the music was wonderful, but the sense of community that grew out of that. And there's communities for everything, and from people making quilts to whatever it may be. And no matter but no matter what you think of the music, that sense of community, that I think is something beautiful, and that people would travel around to see those shows. That's something special.
Interesting. And then you end up creating a music festival, which brings people in the Americana music community together. It all comes full circle, folks. But hey, we're still in that dream. We're still in that fever dream of, getting back to Jim's past and how this came about. But I saw something interesting that happened while you're at the University of Georgia. You became a screening judge for the Peabody Awards. How did that happen?
So I was I had a film class, and well, let me back up. So the Peabody Awards, Georgia, the University of Georgia is, I don't know if you'd say one of the presenters. Anyway, they're one of the major players in giving out the Peabody Awards. So when people are submitting all of the content to try to win one of the awards, you've got loads and loads and loads of this, video. I mean, it's all sorts of stuff that comes in. So they would have us students break into teams with somebody that was more seasoned with the Peabody Award staff, and we would meet for 2-3 hours at a time and just go through tons and tons and tons of this stuff to determine what should be truly considered. So, one of the ones that we put up for consideration that ended up winning was South Park. South Park was one of the, and then it was great.
First thing I think of when I think of South Park is Peabody Award.
But what it was about is that they are able to, through whether you see it as childish humor, whatever you see it through, they're still able to deliver a thought-provoking message. Sure. Now, can't say that I've watched South Park in many years, but just as we were looking through this, we first saw it, we said, no, this isn't something that would really resonate. And then we thought about it and we talked through it, and we're like, you know what, this really is thought-provoking, and they're doing a good job in delivering something in a way that most other people don't.
Amazing. Have Matt and Trey ever personally called to thank you for that Peabody?
No, they didn't personally call me.
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll run into them on Central Park West one day and you'll be like, hey guys, so kind of like my celebrity sighting this morning, which happened to go into the theme of the sponsor of the show. And I was going to say, I was like, I think that's him. I was going to stop him, and I'm like, you know what? It's kind of like that New York thing where most celebrities can just sort of walk around New York and not be bothered, and they love that. So I figured I wouldn't be the guy to bother him there. But anyway, this is not about me and my experience. This is about you. So back to the dream, back to taking us back to those halcyon days. When you get out of the University of Georgia, you've got an 18-year career so far, of course, in entertainment and PR, entertainment and PR marketing. And your first job out of school, right away, you're in it. You're working in music. You're working with Vanguard Records, doing marketing PR. You had to think like, holy cow, this might be like, this is the job. This is where it's at.
Yeah, it was great. The way that I got there ultimately is I was walking on a campus in Athens, and I saw a flyer.
Different than walking in Memphis, folks. Just make sure I want to make that clear. Different than walking in Memphis.
Yes, yes. But I saw a flyer that said, "Do you like to talk about music?" And said, "If you want to learn how to be a publicist, come to this meeting at this time." And I went to hear a woman named Michelle Roche speak, and Michelle, Michelle talked about what it meant to be a publicist, and like I was talking about earlier. I always liked to connect people with music that I thought that they would enjoy. So it was a natural step there. And Michelle had been a publicist with Capricorn Records, great Georgia label, and had gone out to LA and then come back to Athens and started her boutique firm there. So I worked with her for a few years while I was at the University of Georgia, and then with Vanguard. The great thing, and Vanguard's was purchased by, I think, Concord Records maybe 5-6 years ago, something like that. But, Vanguard was the largest independent label going back to the 50s. So you had Mississippi John Hurt and Odetta on that label. You had Joan Baez. Bob Dylan wanted to be on Vanguard because of the artists that they had. I don't think Dylan actually ended up on the label, but and as it went through time, got to work on albums by folks like Levon Helm and others. So it was a great experience.
So that's kind of some of the Americana came through that for you.
Yeah. The great thing about Americana is that there's so many things under this tent, right? You got these elements of blues and folk and soul and gospel and rock and country, and sometimes it doesn't it's hard to put your finger on, but there's this great sense of songwriting and craftsmanship that I always connected with, and that was a great thing that Vanguard supported those artists.
Yeah, and did that job take you to? I mean, when you say Dylan, I think Greenwich Village. Was this job getting you on the road to places? Were you out there on the road with any artists? Were you visiting any artists, or was it more in the office doing the office work for publishing and writing press releases and so on?
It was more the office stuff. The radio guys got to go on the road more, and
Look, I'm a radio guy. Didn't you hear my show? The jam band show at the University of Georgia.
But yeah, a lot of what we did is what I did specifically was the tour press. So we would have as many as 150 shows going on, and you had to make sure that when the artist was getting into a certain market, that we had connected with the right people and done our best to help promote that show, which would in turn help sell albums for the artist and for the label.
So from there, you move on to essentially like a digital agency where you're working with even more talent. Now, I might be reading this wrong, or maybe I'm deep into this fever dream too much now. But was there a CeeLo Green and a Meow Mix story? Did he voice a Meow Mix commercial, or are these two separate stories? Either way, I want to hear them.
So we did a lot of interesting things, and CeeLo is a big cat guy. So I didn't know that ahead of time, but brands want to connect with celebrities and figure out creative ways to do it. So yeah, Meow Mix got CeeLo on board for a promotion, and worked with that, and did some other fun things like San Francisco, Lombard Street, that windiest street in the country. So Candyland took over Lombard Street and turned that street into a Candyland board. So we got to do some fun things.
I feel like I remember that. I mean, it was before Instagram, I know, but that would have been an incredibly Instagrammable moment. That might have been where
Yeah.
Instagram was born. It was like, imagine if this was a picture and you could post this right now and everyone could see it and like it. Put fire emojis on it.
Yeah, I don't know. PR and marketing get a bad rap sometimes, but I think it's bad PR and it's bad marketing that you see through. If it's something that connects and that it's interesting to folks, then it's a fun place to be, especially if you like to talk about things and help promote what others are doing.
Yeah, and sometimes the marketing is better than the actual product, or like the marketing of a movie. I remember and it was really clever. There was, Mike Myers had that movie where he was like a shaman or something. I'm trying to remember what it was called. But he had long beard, and he was sort of this like spiritual person. And the movie was so bad that I can't even think of the name of it. But there was a guy in New York who teaches guitar named Dan Smith. Dan Smith was great at marketing. He had these with the little tabs on the end, like you said, when you found out about your first job, want to learn more? Do you like talking about music? You're like, yes, please. You pull that tab off. And Dan Smith had these in every single deli and every small business. And it was like, Dan Smith will teach you how to play guitar. And it was just this sort of basic looking dude in a black t-shirt and a guitar. And you could tear out the thing off the bottom, but everybody knew who Dan Smith was. And for that Mike Myers movie, they went into delis and stuff, and they said the magic man, whatever the movie was, will help you heal or something like that. And there was tabs that you could rip off, and it had the website for the movie on it. I was like, only in New York is that making sense, but it was awesome. And of course the movie was terrible. But there had to be a campaign you worked on where you were like, oh my God, that campaign was genius, but the product or the movie or the album or whatever was just fizzled.
Yeah,
you can change. You don't have to use real names. You can protect the innocent.
Let me get back to you on that one. I'm sure I will have some. I'm sure I'll have some later. I've got some floating around, but let me circle back.
Yeah,
on
folks, that might be in the outtakes. You can catch that on our website, or we have all those. But we'll move on from that agency, and you start winning awards. You're at Allied, and I saw this Fox Theater campaign that you guys worked on, and you end up winning a lot of awards for being a part of this. Now, there's a Fox Theater in Detroit and other places. Where was this project taking place?
This Fox Theater was the one in Atlanta.
Okay.
So it's our beloved theater in the city. It was built in 1929, if I'm not mistaken. And back then, the reason why there's a lot of Fox theaters around the country is that the movie studios would build these theaters to only show their specific movies, right? So that's why you have a lot of them with the same name around. But
I always thought it was I don't think this is the movie theater. I didn't think it was the production studio. I thought it was like some. I never looked into it, but I thought maybe it was like some philanthropist, like a Carnegie or J.P. Morgan or something like that. Like a robber baron from back in the day, because they all had that Art Deco or that back to the almost silent era look to them. I was like, these are the glamorous movie halls.
Yeah. The Fox Theater in Atlanta was modeled, if I'm remembering this correctly, after it was Moroccan themed, right? Okay. So they have stars above the top of the theater that's there, and the lights twinkle. And if I'm not mistaken, the stars are actually aligned to what the sky looks like in Morocco, and it's got this Egyptian theme that's running throughout. But yeah, when I was at Allied Integrated Marketing, we were lucky enough to work with the Fox on several of their campaigns and shows as they would come through, and they have an in-house team that's just absolutely wonderful as well. But the theater in the 70s had as people moved out to the suburbs, the theater had kind of lost its shine, right?
Yeah.
And there was
hard times, as they say.
Right, and it was going to be torn down for a bank. So they were going to tear down this building and put in a bank, and then once the city heard about it, people like fans of the arts, we band together to try to save and get things going. So basically, the city and students, people were saving pennies, and everybody was sending in money, and ultimately. Also, a promoter from Atlanta had put together some shows with, I believe it was maybe Leonard Skinner or Allman Brothers, somebody similar to that, to do some fundraising shows, and ultimately the theater was saved. And so, as a celebration of 40 years after that happened, we put together a great campaign, with the Fox, and they put on a block party, and a lot of people showed up, and I think it was Alan, who was the CEO or president of the Fox, that he said all of these people coming out for this street, for this kind of one-day street festival that was put on. So all of these people are coming out to celebrate a building, and it's a pretty cool thing that something resonates and connects with people so much, and they feel so strongly about it that they save it. And 40 years later, they're one of the top 4,000 seat venues in the world. Year in and year out.
Incredible, yeah. And you see that it's like a centerpiece in places like Detroit as well. So amazing, really incredible. Bravo for working on that campaign and saving that place. And instead of it being a Provident bank, or I don't know why Provident was the one that just popped into my head. They have like probably 3 chains around the whole country these days. But you're talking about fundraising here and getting people around. One of my favorite places to host an event, and I'm in fundraising, where I'm an auctioneer, and I host live auctions for all these different charities. So I would have loved to have been a part of the fundraising for the Fox Theater. But one of my favorite venues was City Winery in New York, the first City Winery, the original in Soho. And I hosted a couple different fundraisers there for some great schools in New York and so on. And I just loved the concept when the first one opened. I was like, look at this intimate sort of dinner theater, but focused around wine, and you got music, and it's like the coolest concert venue in New York because of everything around it. You can just come here just for dinner if you want. And of course, the original one in Soho became a high-rise apartment and was raised, but that's progress or something like that in New York and every other major city. But before that happened, we hosted an event for there was a school, and then an organization I was working with a lot. We had this great night in like the side room, but then I got to see acts like Glenn Hansard there, and it was like dinner and drinks with Glenn Hansard, and it was almost like you felt like you were backstage with him the whole time. It was just so cool. But then you start working there, and you helped, and this is no surprise from your marketing career, you're now bringing like that core marketing in with music, and now you're bringing the food and the drink in, and helped it expand in Atlanta, in DC, Boston, Philly. Of course, there's one in Chicago as well. But I mean, I guess one question is, are you even a real city if you don't have a city winery? We'll leave that out there to the universe to decide that one. But how did you get attracted to them? And was this like you saw this and you were like, boom, I get the concept, and I got to be a part of this growth?
Yeah, so I first noticed or heard of City Winery because there were a lot of the artists that I liked and that I wanted to go see. I kept seeing that City Winery Nashville was popping up as a stop on their tours, and I thought, well, I needed to look into this place, and then I saw something come across a news feed that said that they would be opening in Atlanta, and they were looking to do that, 6 months down the road. So that day I reached out directly to them and I said, hey, I want to be your guy for marketing for this. And so they got back to me quickly and said, you're jumping the gun on us a bit, but we'll circle back, and we kept in touch, and we launched in Atlanta, and then there were four or five more afterwards. They opened up quite a few of those.
Now, you spent a third of your young career there, so this had to be a compelling place to work.
It was. And one of the, so it's such an interesting concept that really hadn't been done before, where you look, as I don't know how old you are. I'm 44 now. And as you get older,
I'm 40 something. I'm 40 something too. And whatever you sounds good. Go with it.
But as you get older, you don't lose your love of music, right? You lose your love of connecting in that live atmosphere.
Yeah.
But you lose your love of someplace saying that a show's going to start at 7, it doesn't start till 10 o'clock. You come home, reeking of cigarette smoke and cheap beer. And, that was fine for me in my 20s going to see music 4 nights a week. But as you get older, you want a different experience. You want to be able to have that show. And if you want to go to bed at 10, know that you can be home at 10. And I think that, Michael Dorf built a place that really caters to that environment, in a place where, you go to some venues and you could choose between a red and a white wine. Here you had 300 different options.
Right.
And so, it was a great place to work. And it was great reconnecting with a lot of those Vanguard artists because now they're 10 years further along in their career, 15 years, and they were playing in 300 seat places. So got to reconnect with a lot of those artists, which was great.
So reconnecting with those Vanguard artists, and then also, as you said, seeing those artists on their concert tour dates that were playing City Winery, was this where you started to really hatch out the plan for Lost Art?
It was. When I was in college, I always wanted to do something with music. I never thought it was an opportunity, right? Like, how do you get in there? It seems like this, and you have your show here, and for a lot of people, it seems like, how do you get in there? And I happen to see a flyer,
right.
And that started me on this path that I love, and live entertainment, man, it's a hard industry, but but also I think from my father, I got a strong entrepreneurial spirit, and so then I really started thinking about how can I try to put something together that combines these things that I love, and so I think that a lot of different things from some of the work that I was lucky enough to do with the Fox Theater, and the care that they put into the hospitality, the experience, and once you're there, you're there, and it's a weird way to put it, but you have this connection with the venue and the artist and the people that you're around. And the City Winery also does a great job of having a completely different type of experience that you've never had before, and really connecting those dots. And from seeing how leaders from those companies put things together, I started to hatch a plan of how I could try to put something together that fit my passions and the communities I wanted to help build.
So then what's that first step when you decide that you're like, I am going to create a unique musical festival because I know that I'm not alone here. I know there's thousands of other people that love what I love with Americana, and I can make this happen in the Southeast. So was the first step saying near Atlanta, or was the first step, what was the first step? How about that? Is there a first step, or is it just 20 steps?
Well, I've been to festivals in 30 states, and I've probably seen 2,000 shows in my life. So I had an idea of what I wanted to see in the kind of event that I wanted to be at. But what I really started to do when looking at it, not from the fan perspective, but from the fan and business perspective, right, of how you put this together, I started doing a deep dive and research of all different types of festivals, right? So you have your downtown festivals that are multiple venues, right? And that's one vibe completely. You have your festivals that are in a field. Bonnaroo is in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee, right? Yeah. And then you're building something from there. So there's, I started looking at the different concepts and breaking down what made them great or what the challenges were there, and then seeing how I could put something together and have smart growth with that.
Amazing. Incredible. And then from there, did you go out, did you have to find investors for this, or were you able to bootstrap this?
So I worked with a really great talent buyer, and still do, named Rodney Stammel. And Rodney was the first talent buyer at City Winery Atlanta, and we worked together for years very well. He's very, very respected in Georgia and beyond. His start was with the management for Sister Hazel when they were selling a bajillion albums in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And at some point they wanted to do a thank you for their fans, and so they put together a cruise concert, and it went incredibly well. And so then that launched another company with Rodney that started that concert cruise concept. And so once I had taken my idea and put together a business plan as far as I could take it, and I felt confident enough to start showing it to other people, I came and knocked on his door and said, "Hey man, I'm trying to do this, but I'm going to need some help along the way." So meetings with him, he would give me a lot of his experience and what he had seen work and not work. And originally I wanted to put a festival like any other that would be in a city park somewhere that would be this. And he said, "Why do you want to do this same thing that others have done?" And we went back and forth with it. And then that's how the idea for Lost Art really grew out of those meetings.
So this is going to be year 2 officially, right? Because it was actually, you launched it in 2020, which is, you're like, great timing to launch a business in 2020. But it did take place in 2021. And now you are taking the best of Americana into year 2. Why did you, so this location came about? How did you settle on this? Like with Okeechobee, as we, and thank you for listening to that episode. He sort of like got there, and a friend said, "I own this piece of property or whatever, or, I'm looking at this piece of property. You want to in on it?" And he was like, "Oh man, this is the place," because it was so different, right? It wasn't, he was at Miami Art Basel, and he was like, let's bring music and art and stuff together. But he's like, nah, you can't be Miami. You just can't. And then like Okeechobee, cool name and all. But why? How did you zero in on the spot about 30 minutes outside of Atlanta?
This is a great question. Great question. So with our concept, is taking the cruise concert concept, which is putting live events on a cruise ship. You're bringing together people to have this multi-day vacation event, right? You have excursions between the artists, and you really build this sense of community on those concert cruises. So we wanted to take that concept but make it landlocked near a major metropolitan center, right? So you would have to have a lot of different pieces for that. One, you would have to have the land to put it on. You would need to have on-site lodging, right? That would fit the audience that you're trying to attract for this festival. You would need to have a place where you can have those excursions where we're not taking a boat to go to the island, but what can we do on site to connect fans with artists in an interesting way? And so once we got to Foxhall Resort, which is where this is taking place, I had been there for a different event, for a charity event a few years earlier, actually with City Winery. We were helping pour some wine as kind of a marketing thing.
You didn't call me to be the auctioneer? Come on, man. Where were we then?
But yeah, so Foxhall was able to provide, they've got 1,100 acres. It's on a beautiful bend in the Chattahoochee River there. They've got hiking, they've got ATVs, they've got a golf driving range. It was brand new last year, $1.5 million, I believe, $1.5 million clubhouse, infinity pool. It overlooks this huge lake. There's fishing and all of that, but also you can get there and, from my house, from Midtown Atlanta, you can get there in about 25 minutes. So it checked off the boxes.
So you just take one of the Peachtree North, Peachtree Southwest, Peachtree, whatever, right there, and you can get there in 25 minutes.
Yeah, I think I read once that there's something like 130 different Peachtree streets.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
I remember I was like trying to put something in a GPS in Atlanta in my car, and I was like, what Peachtree? It's like, did you mean Peachtree Southwest? Did you mean Peachtree Northwest? Did you mean Peachtree Northeast Southwest? I'm like, that's not even a real location. But yeah, it's crazy. But look, you've got some great acts. As I said, the best, and I put that in quotes, the best of Americana. I just saw a press release where you also landed Raylan Baxter and Aaron Lee Tasjan. Now this sort of like rounded out the lineup, but I mean, you got some big acts. Who else can we expect to see here in official year 2?
In official year 2, we have our headliner is Duran Jones and the Indications. So this is a band out of Indiana. Originally, they firmly Americana, retro soul vibe to them, very danceable. But they also have their songwriting there's some socio-political aspects to some of their writing, as well as kind of the feel-good stuff. We have Paul Coven, he's from Tyler, Texas. He has this incredible baritone voice, and it's got this outlaw country vibe. Nobody's going to tell this dude what to do, but the musicianship behind it almost... It's got this Tony Joe White, Waylon Jennings, but almost a Talking Heads kind of mixed in with it as well. The Lone Bellow, they're just a phenomenal trio. Great harmonies. Raylan Baxter, of course, and both Raylan and Aaron Lee Tasjan. And Aaron was just up for he was nominated for a songwriting credit for or Grammy nominated for a song that him and Dan Auerbach did with Yola. But Raylan and Aaron, those guys, they're every album is so different, but so them, and that's just talent shining through, which is awesome. Southern Avenue, which is they're Memphis based, soul blues, and yeah, we just have a great lineup all the way through.
Unbelievable. So I want to be there for more than I want to stay. So am I camping? That we talked about this beautiful Foxhall Resort, but what's like the lodging? Am I camping, glamping? What's happening?
So that's a great question. So on site, we've packaged the lodging together in what we're calling VIP Platinum tickets. Right. So our Friday night show, which is Aaron Lee Tasjan and Gabe Lee. Gabe Lee's amazing. so that's our Friday night show. It's all GA. And then Saturday, we've got GA, VIP on up. But the VIP Platinum includes on-site lodging and both nights of tickets. So these are 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom villas. They're lakeside. The 2-bedroom villas, I mean, these are 2 floors. You've got beautiful sitting area, full kitchen, and then you're just right on top of the lake, and you can walk to this infinity pool that's right next to it. So that's for the folks staying on site. We do have camping accommodations as well, working with a company who you book your camping spot. They set it up for you. So once you get there, all you have to do is check in. You got your spot.
Nice.
We do have a round trip shuttle from Atlanta and from Douglasville and from the North Burbs, north of Atlanta as well. So for, I think it's $30 round trip, you can just let them pick you up and bring you to the festival and then take you back home at night. And so we have a lot of different lodging options for folks.
And how about, look, you're the City Winery guy. You spent 6 years there. You haven't talked about the food and the drink that goes along. I mean, you mentioned a kitchen. Sure, I can bring some ramen noodles if I want, but there's got to be some great beverages we're talking about here. There's got to be some really good food options to go along with this music, because that is the City Winery magic. And you learned that, you know it, you helped continue to develop that. So give me, I should have eaten before this. I know I should have, but tell me what we're talking about here while you can hear my stomach growling.
Yeah, so Cathead Distillery is our presenting sponsor, and so they and they were last year as well. So they put together different cocktails that we have there. So they've got their Old Soul bourbon, which is phenomenal bourbon. They've got a Bristow gin drink, and then they've got three different vodkas as well. So for a little bit more refreshing drinks, and Ross is great. Ross Merriman is the one who kind of curates all of that. And then they have hard seltzers as well. My wife loves those. And so they've got a lot of really great hard seltzers they're bringing. Wild Heaven Beer is who's going to be supplying the beer for us, and they're a wonderful sponsor as well. They're based out of Atlanta and growing. Nick, who is their president, was one of the founders of Paste magazine back in the day, and so it's really great to have these two sponsors that have such a wonderful connection to music. On my computer right here, it's got a bumper sticker that I've had on there for years from Cathead, even before they sponsored the festival, that just says support live music. So it's really great to connect people or connect brands with the experience that we're going for, and they're wonderful.
And I saw on your Instagram, it says experience music again. Now that is just those are the 3 words for it, right? I mean, that's what we're all looking forward to doing this. And folks, the dates are June 17th and June 18th. Come for a day, come for 2 days, camp out, get the VIP package. So how do we get the VIP package or the GA package?
So yeah, if you go to lostartmusicfest.com, we have tickets from they run from $25 on up. So yeah, lostartmusicfest.com. Yes,
excellent. Look, and folks, we can't wait to experience live music again, or just experience music again the way it is meant to be. And Americana is an experience that you will not forget. So check it out. Go to this festival. Go to every festival you can, because who knows what's around the corner. We've seen it all lately. But folks, how do we find you on social media as well? I mentioned Instagram. So tell us how we can start following you in all these great places.
So if, we are at Lost Art Music Fest. That's the way to find us across the board.
Anywhere. Across the board. Perfect. Some people are like, well, on Twitter, I'm this, on Instagram, but that's great. At Lost Art Music Fest across the social media platforms. And will we see you TikTok dancing on one of them, or is that's not going to happen?
Yeah, nobody wants to see me dance. Nobody wants to see that.
Well said. Same here. Same here. Okay. Well, the food and the drink, that sounds incredible. I just, I like variety. So besides the music, besides the great lodging, besides the food and the drink, what other activities could I do, for an ADD guy like me who's like seeing a couple of bands, having a great time, but I'm like, hey, would it be great if there was some other activity? I know you did some interesting things in 2021. So what other stuff outside of what we've covered could we expect? What kind of experiences, perhaps?
So we have what we call inner circle experiences. So these are ways to break down the wall between the fan and the artist through an outing. So this is our landlocked excursion. So we're working on what we're going to have this year, and we'll be announcing that. Soon. But last year we had the Warren Treaty, wonderful band, and they did an ATV tour, and we did a hayride tour.
Nice.
So did that for a half hour, and then they did a 20-minute a cappella set right in front of the Chattahoochee River. So wonderful artists. And then you got the river right behind them, and people enjoying a beer. It was great. And we also did last year. We called it the Broken Bones Barbecue, Beer Pairing, and Lawn Sports Tournament. It's a mouthful, but there's a lot going on. So we had a barbecue and a beer pairing, and then on site at Foxhall, there's bocce and horseshoes. So the fans did a tournament with each other, and then it was set up so that the winners played the members of St. Paul and the Broken Bones. And we're working with the artists this year to see. We've talked about doing a long range driving contest for the golfers. That I'm not a golfer. So watching this on video.
I was going to say, I'm like, what is that? What are you doing right there? For those watching, you understand what I'm saying. For those listening, he just showed you not how to swing a golf club.
Very true, very true. But yeah, these are fun things for everybody, and it was a blast last year. So we're looking forward to this year's as well.
Amazing. Hey, just another reason to attend. As I said, man, we love experiencing the music. We loved experiencing it with you, and can't wait to experience more music again on festivalPass Stories. Jim Ethridge, thank you so much for the time. Guys, go check out the festival. Jim, thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
This is festivalPass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next.